Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in the United Kingdom. And today I thought we'd have a play with some of the lovely Nature's Prints and Sun Prints coordinating DSP to make this fun pentagon box with a pretty star top. You can see there, and this is just sized to fit a little jar candle, and this is just one from one of my local shops, just a pretty little candle in a little jar, and I just thought it needed prettying up, and it was just as a little gift for a friend who's going through a tough time, just to say, you know, thinking of you, yeah, just a bit of fun. So just ribbon closure. I've just used a bit of some white ribbon that I had in my stash. This is using lovely grey granite, and you can see this is lovely You're On My Mind, and just some of the die cuts here which come from the Nature's Prints and coordinating dies. You can see here beautiful floral stamp sets, some super sentiments, and dies that coordinate, that cut out these kind of floral, you know, leaf images, and also a lovely wreath and some super accents, and it's these accents I've used here. So I've used these two frondy ones, and I've used this sprig here as well, and as usual you can see my extra bits in there ready for when I want to make a quick card. The other thing I've used, which you probably won't be able to see immediately, are our beautiful shapes dies, and I've used one of the circle ones, and these are pierced shapes. So I've got two sets in here, which is one is stylish shapes and one is beautiful shapes. I told a lie, this one's stylish shapes. So stylish shapes are these fabulous squares and circles that create a pierced edge both inside and out, great for when you want to create an aperture. Some super banners as well, and then our beautiful shapes are our hexagons and our circles, and with the embossing already done in there. So I have used I have used both of them, because I've used the beautiful shapes for that hexagon as well. Even though I hadn't got a pentagon, I kind of went, well, it'll kind of do the trick. And as always, I've just got a stash there ready. And then this is something that I've done. I've just created myself a little template of all the different shapes and sizes, so I can at a glance see what size they are. And what I've done is I've then layered them with my my beautiful shapes. I get these ones mixed up. Right, they are stylish shapes. Stylish shapes are the pierced ones, and then basic ones are just plain on the edges. So you can see, you can get all sorts of layers, and by doing that contrast I can easily see which one I want to use. So they kind of all go down in size, as you can see there, and different layers, which is great when you want to quickly refer to it. So that's just a little tip, and then good old CD packets just to keep things tidy in there as well. So the paper I've used is the lovely Sun Prints paper. So for those of you that don't know about Sun Prints, this is photoreactive paper. So what you do is you put it out in the sun with your leaves or whatever, and then you get these lovely shaded leaves appearing. But obviously Stampin' Up! Have done all the hard work for us, and we've got 12 by 12 paper, and obviously you get 6 designs, and you get 2 sheets of each design, and they're in lovely blues. So we've got Night of Navy, Pacific Point and Starry Sky, then contrasted with grey granite. So you can see here on the one side, and then you've got sort of the Sun Prints on the other side. So we've got some useful stripes. This is the paper I use, which is this lovely floral image, and on the reverse you've got a nice sort of kind of dotty pattern. This is one of my favourites. I love this particular pattern, and this reverse one as well. And then finally this one with the Sun Prints on the back. So that's the paper, to each of 6 designs of 12 by 12. So having done it in the grey granite, and I have kept it tone on tone as well, I haven't added the blue in. It looks, you know, they do look lovely together, but I just thought I'm going to keep it nice and simple. So I'm going to do one in Night of Navy now. So I've got my Night of Navy ink pad to hand, keep those dies. With the shapes, I'm going to use this one here, which is my number 5 die, and I'm going to obviously use my, well, not obviously, I'm going to use my second, number 2 of my hexagons as well. So those are all ready to go. You're going to want a piece of A4 cardstock, you're going to want a scrap of basic white, and you're going to want a scrap of Night of Navy as well. So if we start with our stamping, and I'm going to do this lovely frond. So I'm just going to stamp that. Not very well. Okay, turn it over, use that second side. There we go. But it looks like I might need to re-ink that a little bit. I'm also going to stamp my You're on My Mind, and I have already die cut one of these shapes. So it's just... There we go, let's pop that to one side. And then I might actually do an extra... Shall I do an extra flower? I might use this, this flower is really pretty. That might be rather nice to do as well, so just stamp that as well. So I'm going to die cut those. I'm going to use my post-it note tape just to use that, and when you line them up, if you look, there's a little release hole at the bottom, so if you line that up with your stem, then line your top up, that should give you a give you a good outline. It should mean it's nicely centred. I'm going to do the same with my flower, so again just using that little release hole there to come in and then sort of pivot from there, so you can just see the outline hopefully of your image. Stick that down, and then we can die cut those. And then I have die cut my stylish shape and 2 more sprigs as well. There we go. So those are my kind of decorative components, and while this is well, before we do the work, I'm going to do the work, before we create the box, I'm just going to stick my layers together. So I'm just going to pop a couple of those sprigs behind, like so, and I'm going to just pop those in place with a couple of dimensionals. Now, because these are going to be hidden by our sentiment, I can just stick those straight over the middle there, so no fussy adhesive. Just pop a third one there. I'm just going to, I'll wait to layer that up, and what do I want my flower as well? Do you know what? I'm actually going to stick with that as it is. Makes it a little bit fussy, I think, otherwise. Really simple to create this. You know what I say, none of my boxes are particularly difficult. You know, occasionally there's a little tricky bit, but you know, honestly, it's really straightforward. So I have done this in inches as well as centimetres, so just have a look at the description box below. So if you're on YouTube, down at round about this bottom corner, there's a little sort of V. Click on that, it'll expand the description box, or click on more, and if you scroll down you'll find all the dimensions in there. So I want a piece of card that is 19 by 26 centimetres. So I'm just going to trim that away. Like so. Those will go into my scraps box. And then we're going to score on the long edge at 5, 10, 15, 20 and 25. So as I said, not difficult scoring at all. Then you're going to turn it with that little section at the top, and you're going to score on the short edge at 6.5 and at 15.5. pop your trimmer away. You will need an embossing tool and a ruler, because the next thing we're going to do is score our diagonals. So I'm just going to come from where this shorter section is, I'm just going to score the 2 diagonals across to there. So I'm going to come in the one direction, there's a song there, and just do all of those across there. So just from that cross point to where it is on the edge. There's never any good cardstock for showing you scoring, but I will pick it up and show it you in a second. Hopefully you'll be able to see it if I kind of make it light. But basically it is really straightforward to do. You can do it on the trimmer. I just find it much easier with you take your pick with the embossing end. So hopefully you can see on there you go. You see I've just scored the diagonals, and now you've scored them, I'm going to come in and just reinforce those the vertical and horizontal score lines. But before I do any other reinforcing, we're going to do a bit of cutting. So this bottom section, this narrow one, is the base of your box. Okay, so now you've done that, grab your scissors and you're just going to cut the triangle out of the top. Now you could, if you wanted, fold these and sort of cut, lining them up, you know, sort of 2 at a time, but I find you just get a bit more slippage then. So, and I think it's the extra few cuts, it's not difficult just to come in and create this like crown top. See, tell them concentrating, I've gone silent. There you go. So you cut all of those out of the top. You're then going to cut this little narrow section, kind of literally cut off a sharp corner, because that's going to line up. And then this bottom section, just trim away that little narrow rectangle like so. So there's with our trimming. We're then going to cut up each of these bottom sections just up to that score line. Okay. Now what you want to do is grab yourself your hole punch, and I've got an old one so I've got a hole punch that's an old Stampin' Up one, but any hole punch that creates a small hole will be fine. And what you're going to do is fold in half and then punch through the top there. So as you go along, sort of half an inch, you know, a little bit, just fold it over. Folding it over, although it makes it a little bit harder when you're punching, it does help when you're threading your ribbon through, especially if, like me, you've misplaced your knitting needle to actually thread the ribbon through. So when you come to this last one, I'm actually going to add my adhesive first. It'll make it a bit more difficult to punch, but it will mean that, again, that they line up. So I'm going to add some strong tape adhesive to the inside of this section. Does the trick. So as I say, I'm just going to come down there. And what I do is, I find when I'm punching through tape like this, just takes a couple of attempts. So we've added our glue. I'm going to wait and do that in a moment, because what I want to do is do my layers. And I put my trimmer away without cutting my layers. So let's crack on and get those cut. So I've got some DSP here that I'm just going to cut a couple of pieces which are 8.5 centimetres high. And then I want 5 pieces at 4.5 centimetres. So might need an extra piece in a minute. The lovely thing with this paper is it's kind of, a lot of the paper isn't directional either, so you can really play around with it. So I'm just going to cut one at 4.5 here, and then trim it down to 8.5. So those are my 5 pieces for decoration. As I said, important that you do this while it's flat, because it's a hexagonal box, a pentagon, so 5-sided rather than being 6-sided. It means it won't sort of fold flat, so you either need to keep it sort of like this before you are ready, if you need to make it for a future one, or obviously store it made up. So I'm just going to add some adhesive to each of these panels of DSP and just layer those on like so. Just add it around the edges there, and I tend to use Tombow just because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room. And again with these pieces, because you can just choose which piece you want, and you don't have to worry about continuity if you don't want to. Okay, so those are my panels. Now I want to add my decorative element, so I'm just going to pop that. I'm going to pop it in the centre panel, and that means that where it joins it, there's going to be the very back of it, and you can see I can just pop that there, and you're on my mind, we'll just sit in the centre there. So I'm going to pop that slightly off to one side with my dimensionals. So I'm going to pop a dimensional in the bottom corner of this one. So if you look at this, I'm going to want a dimensional on this bottom edge here, because it's going to overlap at the front here, and I'll pop one on the opposite side as well. But what I don't want to do is I don't want it standing higher than the rest of it, so I'm just going to pop a little bit of adhesive, some Tombow down there, so that it won't flap about. There we go, like so. Okay, so now we can create our box. So we're going to take our red tape, and this is the trickiest bit of this one, I think. You're just going to line up the bottom edge. So if you take that bottom score line and just line it up all the way up to the top, then come in and just your hand inside and press that down. So now we've got to do that tricky one I talked about that takes a bit more punching effort. So what I find here is I kind of come in and give it a good squeeze, then I do it a second time, and I find usually that second time releases it, punches it through. Now to create our box base, I'm just going to overlap each of these. So I'm going to add a bit of adhesive to each corner, and then make sure you fold over the ones that actually do have the adhesive on them. There we go. Come in this way, like so. And you'll see, obviously you get a bit of a glue there. Once it's just holding, you get a kind of a general impression of the shape. So I'm going to come in with my circle and add my adhesive all the way around there and pop that over. And once you've got the circle on, you'll find it much easier to kind of line it up to give like an even base. Turn it over, and then you can pop whatever you want into the centre of your the words have gone. You can pop your box in, your gift into the centre and weight it down. I'm not going to, because I've only got that one, so I'm just going to come in and use the end of my bone folder just to press that down. And then obviously you're going to get a bit of glue in the bottom there, see if you can see that. You're going to take your second circle and add that to the base. So just pop that in, and again come in and give it a good press down. Now, things that you can use to help with that, something like, here we go, I've got my stamping mist. But this is quite a big box, so you could put all sorts of things there. You could add, you know, chocolate treats or whatever you happen to fancy. And then all you need to do is just press those sides in, and they will come together in the middle. And you can thread your ribbon. Now, as I've said, usually what I would recommend is that you grab yourself a darning needle, you know, or a needle that you use for sewing up. I've obviously misplaced mine. Goodness knows what I've done. So if you're doing it like me and you're threading it through, cut your ribbon at an angle. Hopefully you can see that there. And then just pinch it together and poke that pointy end through. Trim your ribbon. I may have cut that a bit short, but we'll see. And if you struggle to get it through at all, then just trim it down a little bit more. There you go. So just come across at a nice sharp angle again and add, pop that through. There you go. So all we need to do now is, see, I've started at the front where my label is, and as you draw that together, you'll find it will just form the box shape really easily. Keep your ribbon to the front, tie a bow, if needs be, just adjust, and there we have our pretty pentagon box. This one is not as regular as I might have liked it, but hey, there we go. It is easier when you've got something inside it. And there's our bright grey granite. Which do you prefer? Team blue? Team grey granite? I love Night of Navy, so I think I'm always going to go towards that one, but I do rather like grey granite. And the two together look great fun. So, if you want to purchase them, just pop along to my blog at flutterbyheidi.co.uk, or just pop along to Stampin' Up, and when you get to the checkout, search for the demonstrator and find me as Heidi Smith. And I would really appreciate it if you purchased from me. If you're able to subscribe to my video channel as well, that would be great. Just hit that subscribe button on the end screen and you'll find you'll also be directed to other videos that I've done that might be of interest. So have another look and come back and see me soon. Bye now.